Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you a Moon Druid build guide for Baldur's Gate 3. Now the Moon Druid is a pretty strong tank and actually one of the stronger tanks in this game, and I'm going to talk about how to make it that way. So let's get into things here. Now we're going to start off with the Druid, obviously. Now there's a couple different ways we can actually go about doing this. We can go full 12 levels in Druid. If you want Constitution saving proficiency in saving throws for Constitution, we can start with the Fighter or the Sorcerer. But for the purpose of this, I'm just going to start with the Druid. Now, we do get our choice of cantrips. I like to have the Shillelagh, and Thorn Whip. Guidance is a pretty nice one as well if you don't have someone else that has that already. For our ability score, Wisdom is going to be our most important stat, alongside Constitution, and Dexterity is somewhat important as well for our Initiative, which is, I'm going to get into why that's so important as well, because when you're in wild shape form, you don't always get the same stats that your normal form gets, and I'll get into that as I mentioned. Now we're going to try and take our Constitution up as high as we can get it. 16 is optimal, just the more health that we have the better for survivability's sake. And then we can take our Dexterity up to 15, so somewhere around there would be good. Wisdom being our most important stat for casting, and we're going to go with that for our first level in our Moon Druid build. Now, what makes the Moon Druid interesting is you get some special wild shapes that the others don't get. Circle of Spores is my absolute favorite, but with the Circle of the Moon, you can transform twice per short rest, and you use it as a bonus action instead of as an action. So that's even better, because with the Circle of Land, you have to use a turn in combat to wild shape. Whereas with the Moon Druid, it's a bonus action, allowing you to get right into combat. You can also use Lunar Mend to heal yourself. You get the Badger, the Spider, the Wolf, and the Cat. The Cat's kind of underrated, but also you get the Wild Shape Bear, which is like the tough one that you want to be using very early in the game until we get to level 4. In terms of the cantrips that we're going to take, if you can ever take Create Water, I think that this is one of the most underrated spells, because you can cast this outside of combat, create water on enemies, and then set up your Storm Sorcerer or anyone that deals lightning or cold damage. And you can do this outside of combat, so that's pretty huge. I also like to have Healing Word, as if a teammate goes down, you can heal them with using a bonus action instead of running over to them and using an action to bring them back up. So we're going to go with that there. Entangle can be a nice crowd control option that requires concentration. Ice Knife will benefit from Create Water. So early game, this is a good combination of those two. And there is definitely a benefit to taking Long Strider, so if you don't want Thunderwave for the pushback, Long Strider is great because it's a ritual spell, so you can have that all the time. Speak with Animals is also useful too, as there's a lot of opportunities to speak with animals that, as a druid, you should be doing. Into level 3, we get special bonuses from our race, but we also get level 2 spells. So Spike Growth being one of the best. This is a concentration, but it's crowd control. What makes Spike Growth so great is that it halves movement speed and deals damage, so that can be quite nice. I also think that Flaming Spear is a great concentration to have if you're in wild shape form, because this will stick around through your wild shape, so very nice to have. Bark Skin's good if you need a little bit of extra damage resistance. Moonbeam can be pretty good too, but I think that for the purposes of this build, we're just going to go with Spike Growth at level 2 for this. As we go through the levels, we're going to get a bit more spells. So we get another cantrip, take Guidance. This is just great. Poison Spray kind of sucks because everything resists poison, but Resistance is also a nice option if you have someone that already has Guidance. Hold Person is one of my favorite concentrations. I think that this is a great crowd control. You can hold an enemy still and they can't move, act, or react. Attacks within 3 meters are always critical hits. Very powerful. And on top of that, you can upcast it as we get a lot of spell slots, so you can hold Person on multiple people. Fantastic. So we're going to go with something like that. You can even take off Entangle and take Flaming Spear if you want to change something up and have a little bit variability in your build. Now, there's a few different options that we can go with. If we're wild shaping, we want to have Tavern Brawler. Now, this is going to add our strength modifier twice to the damage and attack rolls, which we don't really have a great strength modifier right now, but you can use strength potions to keep your strength very high. What's nice about Tavern Brawler is it's going to add to our attack rolls. Now it says that it adds to the damage rolls, but unfortunately this doesn't work in wild shape form. This only works if you're unarmed and not in wild shape. So this can be quite useful. if you want to roll with that. If you find you're not hitting your attacks with the your wild shape form, this is going to add to your attack rolls, and you can pop the strength potions, have your strength up to a +5, which gives you a +10 to your attack rolls, which is really nice. You're not going to miss with that, so that is a great option to go with, and we can further increase our constitution too. So we're going to take that. Be mindful that you do need strength, so we don't want to dump our strength completely if that's the case, but you can always take 1.0 dexterity and bring that up to even, and then further it later on. For our level 5 here, we get some level 3 spells, which I think Call Lightning is one of the best level 3 spells. Upwards of 30 damage, and that can be doubled with Create Water, so that is fantastic. I'm also a massive fan of Plant Growth for crowd control. It quarters movement speeds, it lasts for 10 turns, and does not require concentration. Very effective. So you can use this on Hunger of Hadar. If you have a Warlock that's set up Hunger of Hadar, you can use Plant Growth, and it'll cause everyone to stick in there or use their dashes to get out of it. So really nice there. At level 5, we also get an additional attack while in wild shape form, so this gets us being a little bit stronger. But even outside of combat, we get ourselves the Call Lightning, and we can choose these spells at any time to swap out. That's the nice thing about the Druid, is it's similar to the Wizard with that ability to swap out spells. So that is great. As we get into level 6, we're going to get some more subclass features. The Primal Strike, which is going to give us, if there's creatures that are immune to physical damage, we ignore that immunity and our damage is counted as magical for the purposes of that. This used to be bugged and wouldn't work, but I do think that it now works from my play testing. And we also got the Panther, which can prowl, as well as the Owlbear, which is great for overall damage, because you can use a bonus action Pounce and it'll deal damage, and then you can attack twice, and it's got a good amount of health. So the Owlbear is kind of priority here until we get to level 10, where we get the Myrmidon. So that is really nice. And then we get another spell slot, so you can take back Flaming Sphere or something like that. Sleet Storm's great for disrupting concentration and creating ice surfaces, which can knock enemies prone, and then you can also use that to create water for your Call Lightning if you're outside of wild shape, but you primarily want to be in wild shape. For level 4 spells, actually quite some good options here. I do recommend always having Conjure Woodland Being, so you can bring this in. It has Nature Step and Tangle, and it summons a Woodwode, so you got not only that, but it has Spike Growth, so that you can create your crowd control without having to get out of wild shape. You can summon this in outside of combat. Conjure Minor Elemental is also fantastic. I'm a big fan of that because it does do a lot of damage, and it's just another way that we can supplement our team while being in wild shape. Ice Storm is another good damaging spell, and Confusion is great for crowd control, but I do think that the best here is Minor Elemental and Woodland Being. Since we're going to be in wild shape form, we can call these in and then just get to our Owlbear attacking. So that is great about level 7. We get a good amount of options there. To level 8, we get ourselves another spell slot, so we can use that to take Ice Storm. Wall of Fire is good too, but I do like Ice Storm because it'll set up ice, and then you can have people trip on it and then create it water for Call Lightning. We also get the Saber-Tooth Tiger, which can shred armor and regenerate health points. It's a pretty nice one. It can reduce armor classes. It does reduce armor class by 1, so it's not absolutely game-changing, but it is nice. Now, we're going to go ahead here, and we're going to take our Wisdom and Constitution up, which will give us a bit more health, as that's kind of... We're supposed to be tanky. That's important here. And, yeah, we're going to go with that there. Now, as we get into level 9, we get to choose another couple spells here. So, Conjure Elemental, definitely taking that, because, as I said, the ability to have that outside of your wild shape form and then persist into wild shape is fantastic. Planar Binding can be nice, too. Attach your consciousness to an otherworldly ally, otherworldly being. It'll fight for your team for 10 turns. Very useful. Again, having more actions in the action economy is huge, so we want to go for that if at all possible. So we're going to take that, and then also we get ourselves level 5 and level 4 spell slots, so pretty good there. As we go into level 10, this is where things kind of taper off for the Druid. We can go with another spell here, so Confusion is one that I really enjoy using because it's confuse a group of enemies for 3 turns. They're basically useless. It's like Fireball, it hits a large area, so definitely good. But we also get improved Wild Strikes, which allows us to make 2 Wild Shape attacks. So that's great, increasing our overall damage. And we also get the Dilophosaurus. But the main ones we're looking at here is, unfortunately, the Myrmidons take 2 of our Wild Shape forms. So air, earth, fire, and water. One thing to note with these, we have proficiencies for our weapons, and the only one that uses a weapon that we're proficient in is the air Myrmidon. So using the fire or water, we're not going to add our proficiency bonuses to the damage, so that kind of sucks. But there's a way to circumvent this, which I'll get into. As I mentioned earlier, we can take a level of fighter. Fighter gives us weapon proficiencies, which is going to boost those up. Also, the war cleric is another option, so I leave that up to you, but I'm going to show you how I would go about doing it. At level 6, we do get some nice spells, like the level 6 heal has some unique interactions with the Dark Urge if you're doing that style playthrough. Hero's Feast is okay. To be honest, I do think it's best. Even though we're losing out on level 6 spells, adding in the War Cleric gives us weapon proficiencies, which is pretty nice. But then also, I guess we'll switch it to the War Domain. You can see martial weapon proficiency there, so add a proficiency bonus to attack rolls with martial weapons, making our other Myrmidon forms much better. And then we can also use a bonus action to make an attack, so that's pretty good. For cantrips, you can take whatever you didn't take. So create flame might be nice for setting up fire. Secret flame, radiant damage has its uses, and blade ward's kind of nice just overall. Pick a deity of your choice. And then for our prepared spells, we already have some of these. Create water. Taking bless is nice, and command is really great as well. Command can be nice because you can drop enemies' weapons, pick them up, and then they're useless. So that is great. So we're going to add that in. Gives us domain spells and some other great things. And then on top of that, we can also add in another multi-class. We could have started with fighter for constitution proficiency and constitution saving throws, but we could also go with the sorcerer, which has the exact same thing. So you could start with 1 level sorcerer once you reach max level. I wanted to make this somewhat of a build guide for people that are playing through all the way through. I like Ray of Frost and Shock and Grasp. As I mentioned, these are going to get double damage from water, so they can do 48 damage at max, which is pretty great for a cantrip. Minor Illusion is a fantastic cantrip as well. It'll group enemies together. You can steal from the room or drop fireballs on them. Friends is great. You should have friends if you're the face of the party. This is definitely a very effective one to have. And Bone Chill is great too to stop enemies from healing and giving a disadvantage on attack rolls. Now for our spells, Shield is fantastic. We almost always want to have Shield. I like Magic Missile because there are some times where you can't attack with anything at all, but Magic Missile will be that one thing that can get you an attack off. So we want to have that and Shield. Now, we get to choose a subclass, which is nice. So, there's 2 great options. Storm Sorcery will give you the ability to fly as a bonus action without receiving opportunity attacks after casting a level 1 spell, which is amazing. I think the Draconic Bloodline is better, though. It gives you the Dragon-like Scales, so it takes your base armor class to 13. And then you get a Draconic Resilience. We get a Dragon Ancestor, so this gives us the ability to cast a spell from here. And we're going to take the one with Armor of Agathis, because we can set this up before we go into our wild shape. They'll give us temporary health points and deal cold damage. So that's really nice. You can only have temporary health points from one source, and we have this that'll give us temporary health, but it's great if you don't have this armor. Now, there are some other options you can go with, but I think that the cold one is the best for the purposes of this build. So I would start with the level 1 sorcerer to constitution saving throws, which will help with your concentrations because they all use constitution for that. So the way you'd go about doing this, we have a large list of spells, is you would want to call in your minor elemental. I like the ice methods, so 2 of those, they deal ice damage, which is great if you create water setup. And then we're going to call in our woodland being, which is great. The dryad here also can call in the fallen lover. So then we get another summon in here. Also get the good berries. But this one can cast spike growth every turn, so you can literally just continually spike growth the area, which is amazing. And there's nature step there too. But then you also have the wood woad to deal damage. And Yeah, it's really incredible. You can set up plant growth and have a lot going on. And then we can also conjure in ourselves a like water myrmidon. So we can pull this into the area here. So then we have all of our summons out. So that's 5 summons right there. And one of them is a beefy dog there. The water myrmidon's amazing. Also, if you have Scratch, you can call Scratch in. We have way too many spells to keep track of here. Then we're going to use Armor of Agathis here. So if you upcast it to level 5, this will give you 25 temporary hit points and deal 25 cold damage to any creature that hits you with a melee attack. So that is nice. We'll cast that on ourselves. So that gives us the temporary health, but also the ability, if anyone attacks us, they're getting dealt with 25 cold damage, which will be benefited by Create Water as well. I guess we can also summon us. So there's a 6th summon. And then Scratch, if you're out in combat, you can summon in Scratch. And then also, I guess, if you have the Quasid Shovel, you can summon in Quasid. So that's 7 summons, which is pretty broken. Oh, yeah, I didn't even mention Flaming Sphere. I don't have Flaming Sphere set, but if you have Flaming Sphere, that's a 7th one. And then we can wild shape into whatever form that we want to go with here. I like going into, like, the water or fire myrmidons. Water, we already have one. This can create water. This can set up water as well with its heal spell. Earth Myrmidon can knock down, and it's unarmed attacks, which is pretty cool. But what's cool about the Fire Myrmidon, when we switch into it, it has haste built in, which is freaking amazing. So ignite yourself with a Primordial Flames that hasten you for 3 turns. So you can give yourself haste, 2 actions, broken. And then you can just continually spam Scorching Strike. So there's also Cinderous Strike and Lunar Mend there. So we got our posse here. The Moon Druid is underrated. This is the tankiest build that I know of in Baldur's Gate 3. Like, we're dealing cold damage and fire damage. We lost our haste there, so it only lasts for 3 turns. But you can burst out damage because you have War Priest extra attack charges, so you can use those bonus actions as attacks. And then we have a lot of different powerful attacks. So the Moon Druid is underrated in Baldur's Gate 3. They're all my friends. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video useful, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.